All right, guys. The next portion of this that I want to go over is the prevailing knowledge that's out there. This is really important. So let's talk about the prevailing knowledge, market gap, and unique selling proposition. This sequence here is incredibly important to re-educating customers to get them to realize that you are nothing like any of the other saturation that's in the market. The Just to go over this quickly, the prevailing knowledge is the one thing that your buyers think they need to do to get results, but they're absolutely wrong. Okay. And again, if every one of your buyers agrees on this statement, then you will be very successful. Okay. It's the one big mistake that they're making. Now, most of you would have assumed that running paid ads was the way to get your leads and get your clients. That's really the prevailing knowledge. A lot of other individuals would believe that they need to do some form of marketing tactic online, right? So there's a lot of old tactics that are still in play, and so there's this situation that people are going through where they're journeying down through life. They run into a problem, and in order to solve that problem, they refer back to the prevailing knowledge that they've learned along the journey of their life. It fails them, and they end up back with this problem. They attempt to use the more prevailing knowledge, and they fail. And it's just this cyclical rat race that people are dealing with. That's what's causing those frustrations and all the stress and everything that's bottling up and coming out for them. This is why they're unable to accomplish their desires, is because they are literally relying on some type of information somewhere along the road that is completely wrong. That is the prevailing knowledge. Now, what you need to determine is, what is the prevailing knowledge that your clientele is relying upon? Okay. And once you've been able to determine that, then you can go on to the next step, and that is, what is the market gap? Why is the prevailing knowledge wrong? You must explain with factual evidence how the prevailing knowledge is wrong, and you must prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. This is known as the market gap. So what I mean by that is that eventually we're going to get to a point where you are crafting a webinar, or maybe you might be on a presentation call where you had to craft a scope of work and you're educating the customer on your plan and strategy to make everything work. You are going to want to re-educate them. And this is really important. This is done in nearly every form of marketing online. Have you ever run into a friend or a colleague, somebody that you know, that is telling you about this new product? You might have mentioned some problem and they say, oh, you've got to go with these guys. And then they start digging in and saying, they use this method and they do this, and then it's all different and blah, blah, blah. And that's how they solve it. It's amazing. What that company has done in their marketing is they've identified the prevailing knowledge. They've broken it apart with factual evidence. This is why you're failing. And then they've been re-educated using the company's unique selling proposition as to why they are the best. This three-step process of re-educating your market is the most important thing that you need to do in your offer, in your sales pitches, and in your advertising, your marketing. Okay. Along the way, at some point, you're going to need to re-educate your market as to why the prevailing knowledge is failing them. And if you try and go out there and you pick a prevailing knowledge that they did not believe in, that they are not attempting to use, then you're not going to be speaking to them. You're not going to grab onto their beliefs, and you're not going to be able to tear those down because they never believed it in the first place. The technical term for this process is literally religious conversion. We use the term conversion, or to convert somebody, in marketing, because the actual technical definition of the word conversion is to change their religious beliefs and convert them into a completely different belief system. And that's called a conversion. That's what we're attempting to do in marketing. We need to grab onto whatever religious belief that they believe about the product or service or situation that they're in, or how to solve their situation. We need to find that and grab onto it. And we need to factually, not by opinion, but beyond a reasonable doubt, poke a million holes in it and show them this is why you've been failing. And if you can do those two things successfully, then you will completely tear down everything that they thought to be true in life, every belief that they've had in what's holding them back. And you'll be able to re-educate them with the what and the why, and show them why you're able to solve this problem like nobody else is able to solve it. And that's why you're the only person to be able to pull them out of this and get them to their desires. This is what we call the big domino. If you can get your customers to believe that the only way to accomplish their desire is by overcoming this obstacle, and the only way to overcome this obstacle is by your solution, then every other objection is gone, and they must invest with you. That is the big domino. So let's go ahead and practice this exercise together. What we're going to do is, after we've gone through this solution here and we've done these 3 steps, then I literally want you to stop here and go back to the problem that you originally identified. Does that original problem that's preventing them from getting the desire, does it reflect the prevailing wisdom? And so you might need to go all the way back to the beginning and rewrite this entire document to make sure that you are speaking a very congruent message throughout. Because through the 5 stages of awareness, you're going to want to peek their problem and say, this is what I'm dealing with. These are all the things that I tried, all the tactical solutions that I tried to solve it. But I was unable to because of this. This is the information I relied upon. This is the gap. But this is what I realized was the tipping point in my life, and I was able to scale and accomplish my desires. That is the story. All right, so let's go through this together. Go ahead and post in the chat for me. What is the prevailing knowledge that your market is relying upon, but it is completely wrong? So Travis says that the prevailing knowledge is that they believe that if they could reduce the costs of a given service, in order to do so, they need to shop around different quotes from different providers and get a better rate from somebody else. So ultimately, they need to change providers to reduce costs. I would say that's a pretty good shot at that. Bill is a technical or specialty executive recruiter in the construction industry, and he says all recruiters use the same job boards, or that the prevailing knowledge is that all recruiters use the same job boards, assuming that are available to the companies, so they're all the same. That's a good one. I can see that. Talon is a relationship management coach, and he says, dwell on the issue rather than themselves, rather than work on themselves. So they're focused on wallowing in their pity in their emotions and mourning rather than picking themselves up and focusing on getting over it. That's my interpretation. Okay, so let's move on to the next step here. Market gap. Why is that information, why is that prevailing knowledge absolutely wrong? Why is it factually wrong that you can prove without explaining the how of what you do? Why is the knowledge in and of itself wrong? Bill says that when he's recruiting for candidates, he does not use job boards. Let me see here. So, is that the market gap? You need to focus on the prevailing knowledge, because if you're in an argument with somebody and they say, "Oh, you're all the same, you all use the same job boards," and you say, "No, I don't," that is not proving beyond a reasonable doubt that I believe you. You've got to use the information against itself and basically say, how many candidates have you actually received from the job boards that fit this? You have this job posted and the job board is not working for you. So, regardless of what I do, what you're doing isn't working for you. Do you think I'm going to go use your method? No. Okay, so Talon says that they will be stuck, no growth, repeating the same cycle until they focus on the core issues to fix the issue. So the market gap would be if you're sitting there dwelling on and mourning the situation and the breakup and the loss, that you're going to be stuck in this pit and you're not going to be able to get up and move forward. You're just going to be basically wallowing in that puddle. Okay, so those are good. Those are good gaps, and we're gonna move on to the next one here. Okay, the unique selling point. Why are you? How are you going to educate your customers that you have overcome that prevailing knowledge? You do it completely different, and you do it in such a way that you are guaranteed to solve this problem. That is your unique selling point. You are completely different from the prevailing knowledge. How are you different? So Lee's chiming in, and he didn't give us his prevailing knowledge or market gap, but he's got for his unique selling point that he actually helps them fix their finances and get that bank approval letter. From our conversations previous, I'll let you in on what we've talked about. Lee's prevailing knowledge is that most of these entrepreneurs, these young entrepreneurs that want to get into real estate, think that they need to buy a real estate course and learn what to do with the property after they own it. Whether it's the Burr method that helps them buy, rehab, renovate, refinance, recycle, repeat, whatever that you want to call it. That all focuses on the property after you own it. But the biggest hurdle to getting into real estate investing is acquiring your first property. So that would be the market gap. I can't even get into the market because I can't even get a bank approval letter. And I can't even get the banks on my side. So Lee says in his real estate investment coaching, he's not going to be dealing with you so much in the telling you what to do with the property after you own it. He's actually going to help you fix your finances, get healthy, so that you can begin investing in real estate because you probably already know what you need to do. All right. So typically, what we would do in a webinar situation or when we're teaching people and breaking down their knowledge and rebuilding it is focus on 3 points. So you want to do this cascading 3. This isn't going to work for you, which means this isn't going to work for you, which compounds, and this isn't going to work for you because of these reasons. Here's why we're going to fix number one and do it differently. Here's why we're going to do number two differently and get you closer to your desire. And here's the third reason or secret of what we're going to do completely different than everybody else to get to your solution. So Bill's popping in here with his unique selling point, and he says, with his 20 years in construction, he's developed relationships and he knows who's retired and who's coming up. So that's why he doesn't need to use the job boards, is because has all the relationships already, which is fantastic. And that's an exact unique selling proposition that's going to work. Okay. Talon says it's a complete mental and lifestyle change. 100% of the clients see improvements in other aspects besides the surface issue that they came to me for. All right, so that was a good exercise on one item throughout. You want to dig in deeper and come up with multiple prevailing knowledge, multiple gaps, and multiple selling points. And you're going to test all these out. When you get on the phone, when you start talking to people on a regular basis, you're going to figure out what triggers them and gets them excited, what information that they're relying upon, that they have their beliefs set in, that you're going to need to destroy and rebuild.